Welcome to the Diverse Minds podcast, where we give you the tips, tools, and techniques you need to be a mentally healthy and inclusive leader. Each week, you'll hear about a variety of topics linked to mental health, well-being, and diversity that will enhance both your professional practice and personal well-being.
Welcome to the 84th episode of the Diverse Minds podcast. And as you know, April is focused on personal development. And part of personal development is to ask yourself big questions. And I'm joined by a wonderful person who knows absolutely how to do that, Bhavik Patel. Bhavik is an entrepreneur that chased society's version of success and lost, finding himself a multiple business owner with all the veneer of success, but behind the carefully crafted mask, heavily in debt and mentally, physically, and emotionally and spiritually broken. This led to an awakening, one where he recreated himself cell by cell through a process of unlearning and going within. Through movement, nutrition, and mindset practices, he has now built a life and business he loves and shares his knowledge through his own podcast, Bigger Than the Hustle, which you should absolutely check out, and is in the process of writing a book about his journey. I'm so delighted that Bhavik can join us today, and he's going to tell us all about asking yourself big questions so we can all go on this journey, reflect inwards, and move in the direction that we want to. So, Bhavik, huge welcome to the show.
Hi, Layla.
It's so lovely to have you here. And I was talking about your podcast, Bigger Than the Hustle, and telling the listeners they've got to check it out.
It's obviously, I'm trying to reach the dizzy heights that you've reached with your podcast, but I just enjoy having conversations. I just love trying to share wisdom, share knowledge, and share a bit of fun through our words and strong in the right sentences put together. I'm sure we can sort of spark some potentials out there.
Yeah, so I didn't realize when I was reading your bio actually that just quite how much of a tumultuous journey you have had. So I think it'd be really lovely for the listeners to know how you became an entrepreneur actually, because I know you've had your business for 20 years.
Yeah. So it started, well, there was no plan to become an entrepreneur with the traditional Asian roots of education. So going through the sort of schooling system, doing a degree, doing a master's, going into corporate. I sort of envisaged myself moving through that course of action, in terms of getting a job, moving up positions, etc., etc. And what happens about 6 months into working in London in a corporate, I decided that I didn't actually enjoy it. Enjoyed the work, enjoyed the people, enjoyed the company, enjoyed everything. I just didn't like the politics. Didn't like how you had to know someone to get on, or it's not how hard you worked, it was who you knew. And it just didn't sit well with me. So I decided, 6 to 9 months later, a friend of mine that was working with me at the time, we decided let's set up our own business in home technology. We both enjoyed that. So we did, again, with no real master plan. In those days, there was no Google, there was no Facebook, no Instagram, etc., which was 20 years ago. I know that sounds, very alien, an alien life form. But
it sounds actually quite nice, actually, if I'm honest. Yeah.
So we found a retail premises back in Leicester and then got set up, started in home technology. And 9 months later, I bought my friend out as a partner. He decided he didn't want to carry on, so I just carried on the business from there. And then my entrepreneurial journey started from there. It sort of helped because I had family, like my dad always had his own business. All my cousins have their own business, etc. So it was always an option for me. It was always a realistic plan of action if I really wanted it. So that really helped. And then I've just continued on that path, set up this business, then had another business which I sold, set up another business which then I closed. So few things have happened on the journey. So it's not been a sort of a nice trajectory at some points, but it's been an absolutely amazing journey so far, and it will continue, I hope.
Yeah, so interesting. And I always say that destiny comes to find you. I think many of us from South Asian backgrounds can resonate with what you said. So there's always been business around me, but I never wanted to have my own business. It was like, why would I do that? Because business to me was you have something really big, you sell things. I couldn't really see myself doing that. So yeah, the definition of business is fluid. So this term, Bigger Than the Hustle, I love the name of your podcast as well. What does that mean to you, given your entrepreneurial trajectory?
Well, there was two trajectories. I will say, as the first 10 years of business, it was all about working hard, working long, no rest, keep pushing, keep striving. And the standard rhetoric that gets thrown about, especially now in terms of hustle, 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 no rest, sleep when you die, etc. And I'd say I fell into that trap. I see it as a trap now, but during the first 10 years of my entrepreneurial journey. Really enjoyed it, felt I had the energy to do it, and just continued to push and enjoy it. The following 10 years preceding that, it changed. The financial crisis hit, the business started to struggle, and I really had to become stronger, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a person. So many moments I went through of darkness during that time, continuing to try and continue on the entrepreneurial journey because that's what I felt I had to do and I wanted to do. But there were so many changes I had to make within myself to continue on that journey. That hustling mentality did nearly break me, and I had to take a step back and I had to let go. I had to work on myself,
Mm.
and I invested in all the areas in life that made me a human outside the business. So this was, in terms of mindset, movement, nutrition, to make myself a better entrepreneur. And I know it sounds a bit odd where you're saying actually you're investing in yourself, which is nothing to your business. And this is what I meant by the title of Bigger Than the Hustle, to say that we are bigger than our business. We are bigger than that grind or that what we do in business. We are people, and it's the human behind the business, and it's a human behind the entrepreneur that interested me, and it's the things that I had to do for myself to make myself a better human being, to make myself a better entrepreneur. And that's when I started the podcast, and I need to share these conversations with people.
And it makes complete sense. And that what you said about, sleep when you die or you keep going, I think for me, and I don't know what you think, but there is something in our cultures, Bhavik, around, hard work doesn't hurt anyone, which I do really admire. But I think often our families don't know when to stop.
Yeah.
And you just keep going and you keep going and you keep going, and everything should feel hard. So there's often a mentality that things shouldn't really come easily. If it's not, you're not struggling, you're not doing it right, and you need to do more of it. And I think it's quite ingrained. And I think it's quite challenging to question ourselves and think, why do I have to feel that things are really difficult?
Yeah, and it's funny you said that about our parents' generation, and there's hats off, so much admiration for that generation, what they did and what they achieved. I think the thing that I've learned from that is they didn't know when to stop, and enjoy the fruits of their labor. My dad, we made him. He had his own business, but we at 58 we made him stop. In terms of, we were already out the house and we were moving on our own journeys. And we say, you don't need to do, run your business. He enjoyed it because it's more, he met people through it, but he was still working so much. And we said there's so much more to life than working. So you need to stop. And if we didn't, I think he'd still be working today, to be fair. And I'm glad, we saw that early. But like you said, I don't think they knew any different. They came to this country and they grafted and they worked hard, and that's all they knew, because that's all they saw before them, to make a better life, not just for themselves, but for us as well. And I think, the learning we can take from that is, yes, definitely take away the hard work, the ethic. At times it is going to be a struggle, but try and enjoy that struggle, because on the other side of that, there is, so many fruits of our labor we can enjoy.
And also, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot around. We feel often as a community, and obviously the South Asian community is very diverse, but talking about our specific strand of it, when is enough enough, and when are we good enough, and when do we stop trying to prove ourselves to ourselves?
And I think, it's funny you use the word enough, because for me, I don't see an end game, in terms of me giving service. So the word work in in the Western community, West culture, has such a negative connotation in terms of, I go to work, or, oh, I've got the weekend off work. And it seems to be this mentality of, oh, I hate work, but I do it because then I get to enjoy the weekend. Look forward to Friday. Thank God it's Friday mentality, because you've got the weekend coming up. But for me, I've always seen work as service, as how do we give service? And I think we as human beings on this planet are here designed, we all have skills. We all have been nurtured in a certain way to try and live, what we have that we can help other people. So what kind of skills do I have? What kind of skills do you have to help other people? And that is the service we give, whether that be professionally or whether that be personally, it's a service we give. And I don't think I want to stop giving service for a long time in whichever format that is, whether that be professionally or personally, because it gives me so much fulfillment when I give service, or my journey can help someone else. And that I essentially see that is what a business is. A business is where you have something that you can help someone else do or help with, and they value you by the payment they give you in terms of money. So it is quite a simple concept. I think it's just been changed in terms of the actual message out there.
Yeah, it's all that concept of seva, isn't it? And how
It
we
is.
serve and how we do that, and how
Yeah.
that will resonate with a lot of people. And I think many global majority cultures absolutely have that. So Bhavik, what's your focus right now? I know you've been super busy in a pandemic. And what's your kind of business focus, and what's your spiritual focus right now?
Okay, so what was interesting during the lockdown, initial lockdown back in March last year, was I think we all got to a point where we didn't realize how maybe fast we were running on this rat wheel and how quickly we were moving until everything stopped and we slowed down, and it allowed us to breathe. It allowed us to take stock of our lives, and it allowed us to then say, actually, is this the life that I want, not the life that the life that I feel I've moved into? And I think it allowed us, a lot of people, to make decisions, and it allowed me to make decisions to say, actually, how do I want my life to move forward? And one thing I missed was, like I said, conversations. And that's when I started the podcast that I started, because I really enjoy conversations with people, especially like-minded people that have so much light to share in the world. And then moving forward. So I am continuing on that journey of podcasting because I love it. I'm working on a book right now about my journey. It's more of a what lessons I learned from going through quite dark moments, so good moments and dark moments, and those lessons, if I can share them to help other people on their journey, make it a little bit easier for them, then that'd be cool. So there's no real structure to that. I get up every morning at 5 o'clock and I write for an hour and see where that leads to. Again, I have no end time when I want that to happen. I just want it to be the best I can produce, and if that takes time, it takes time. So and no one's waiting for me either, so it's great that I've got no one on my back as well. So that's whether that be personal, whether professional. I think that's just a little bit of both, a little bit of myself I want to share. With the business I'm running right now with the home technology, that will continue. I'm really enjoying that because I've again slowed down, working with clients that want to work with us. So there's so many changes that I've made, and really enjoying it, not working as much in terms of the hours, taking more time off, but working on the other things. And then actually I've just enrolled on a coaching course. So I'm going to do a course in April. And ideally, if I could help more people through an official way in terms of coaching, but also I want to help younger people with their journeys, and because I know the fallout to this pandemic is going to be huge, especially on the younger generation. If I can be of help and support by retraining myself in certain areas, then that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's brilliant. There was something on the news this morning actually about our under 18s are the way forward through the recovery in the pandemic. So yeah, that sounds like a really brilliant thing to do, personally, and adding value and going back to service. So Bhavik, you love to ask big questions. I remember when you sent me over the questions for your podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't dare ask myself these questions, which was really illuminating for me. So how does asking these big questions help you, or, enable you and others that you talk to realize goals, hopes and dreams?
I think with questions which lead to conversations, I've always seen conversations as the right words in the right order. And that can give access to an unrealized energy or potential which needs to be unlocked in order to create a version of someone or something that needs to happen. And sometimes we can be stuck. Sometimes we can be at a position or a junction in our life where just a few words can really unlock something in us. And if I can do that via conversations and by questions, that's the aim. Now, you said about questions. What I found is when people have asked me big questions, it makes me think, and not, there's not, I think I had a saying. I'm not sure if I'm going to butcher this statement completely, but it's like, 1% of people think, 1% people like to think they think, 98% of people would rather die than think. And it's that analogy of, actually, am I thinking about what I'm saying, or am I thinking about what I'm doing? Am I living my life in a certain way, or are my actions reflecting on what I want to do? And unless you ask yourself or other people ask you big questions, these things don't get answered. And if they don't get answered, you can almost sleepwalk your way through life without actually really taking a step back and say, is this what I want my life to look like? Is this is the world reflecting back to me what I'm giving out? And do I like that? And if I don't, what am I going to do about that? What can I change that? And it's only when people close to you, or people brave enough to ask those questions, and you're brave enough to answer it with vulnerability, with honesty, can things move forward. Because we can live with a mask. We all have different hats. We have a mask we wear. There's so many hats we wear as as family members, as brothers, as partners, as staff, as bosses, whatever it is. But all of those hats need to be superseded by honesty. And although we have a way we have built up, our structure around us, which is our life. There's certain times when we have to let go of certain things, especially ego, and saying, is this really serving me? Am I being the best for the people around me? And if the answer is no, then what can I do about that? And that's where conversations and questions start.
Thank you. And often we don't know the answers, but I think it's still helpful to write down lots of difficult, challenging questions and ponder on them so we can move forward in the direction that we want to go in.
100%. But the thing is, it's also making the time to do that, because like anyone says, I don't have time. No one has time for anything. You have to make time for the things that are important, and these things should be important because they will help you in so many ways, not just you, but the people around you as well.
And so building on that then, how do you think entrepreneurship could shift to be more about soulpreneurship?
I love that. I love that term. I love that term. When I saw that word, I was like, that resonates so deeply with me. It's such a soul nourishing word, because that's the way I feel what's happening right now is, if I answer your question sort of from a theoretical point of view, I'd say purpose over profit, fulfillment over growth, wisdom over knowledge. And those three things I see in younger people now so much more than the our generation, if you say. Now, working with young people, it seems that they want to make some kind of impact in the world. And it's not to make money, it's to make a difference. And I think that's the roots of soulpreneurship. I think it's, how can I make a difference in the world? Not to become famous, not to do something like that, but just to make a difference. Say, the world was a better place because I was here somehow, and I'm so, when I hear that, and, they're saying, we're not interested in having a big house or a big car, I'll rent and I'll get an Uber. I just want to have a flexibility in my life that I can continue to move forward in the way which makes me happy. And that means that if I then set something up like, for example, a business, or I go through a professional venture, it's because I know it's important to a lot of people in terms of the way, we live our lives and stuff. So I do see a lot of light coming, forward from the next generation. And that's why I'd like to, use what we have. We have experience, we have wisdom over that, we can see things from a longer distance. Actually, just calm down, and it will happen. Because one thing you don't have the youngest experience. So therefore, if we can tap into our experience with their ethos and their ethics, I think that's a great combination.
And I love that, wisdom over knowledge, fulfillment over growth. people and connection over profit. That's really lovely.
Mm.
So Bhavik, as a parent, business owner, podcast host, you're super busy, and you talked about, your journey looking at nutrition, nourishment. So how do you look after your own mental health, and what are the top 3 tips you'd like to share with our listeners?
I love this. I love top tips because it's a quick access to so much information. But I'm going to sort of go a little bit in terms of where this change in my thinking and my viewpoint. My starting point, I would say, in terms of how I moved my life forward was the time when I went through my darkest time. So this was 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, when the financial crisis hit and my business went through a patchy period because I was a weak entrepreneur. I see that wholeheartedly. And I never knew my numbers. I just almost opened a door and things happened. Money came in, you paid the bills, you paid people, you paid yourself, and then there was no real. It was just so good in that respect that you didn't actually have to know your numbers. And then when things slowed down, things became tough. I found myself in heavy debt, so 500,000-600,000 pound plus, and I had to find a way. And when you say dark moments, I woke up and I'd say it was depression at that point, but I woke up crying and I said to Versha, my wife, I can't do this anymore. I can't live the life I'm living. And she goes, you realize the choices you've made, they've been your choice, and now you just have to choose again. And that was a real, when you say a pivotal moment in my life, I'd say the biggest statement said to me. And then I realized that unless I change, I can't keep doing the same thing and expect something different to happen. It's not going to happen. So then I had to go back to basics. So it was almost like I said to the universe, take away what I don't need. I don't care anymore. I'm not holding on to anything anymore. And I had to learn the 3 things, the 3 tips, if I would say, would be to eat well, move well, and think well. They were the 3 things that have been the basis of my rehabilitation and to make me physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally the strongest person I am that I've ever been. So when I say eat well, understand nutrition, what you put inside yourself is the energy that feeds your mind, that provides that balance for you to not just live a good life, but to live a long life as well. I believe we are here for a long time, and with the information we have on health and nutrition, we are here for a long time. So make it the best journey, and look after this vehicle we've been given, which is a body, because that's going to help you in your life, your whole life. Second is move well. So move well is, how do you encompass movement? Our bodies are designed to move. My go-to is running. So when I started my journey, I could barely jog. I could walk and jog between trees just to try and start my journey on running. And then that's now, 8 to 10 years on. I was planning to do the New York Marathon last year, but that got cancelled. So hopefully I'm doing that this year. And I'm so excited that I've move forward in this journey that way. And what I find with running or any physical movement is the chemical imbalance in my brain seems to steady out after some kind of physical movement. So everything just seems clearer, everything seems brighter. I'm thinking a lot better, and everything around me just works. So that part of it is, again, a non-negotiable. I need to keep that one going. And the third one is think well. So when I say think well, it's the information that feeds your brain. So what are you listening to? What are the conversations you're having? What are you reading? What are you watching? Because all these is the knowledge that you build on to make decisions. And those decisions give you the outcome of your life. So if you want to improve the quality of your life, improve the quality of the information going in to allow you to make better decisions, to then lead to the outcome of a better life, because that's where it leads. So they're the 3 things I would say help me the most, and they all feed into my mental health, and they all feed into how I think as a person and my understanding of the patience, the discipline, and the focus to lead to have a good life.
Oh, thank you, Bhavik. Yeah, that's really wonderful. And just also how you have got so much support from your family. And if people want to check out episode 3, Varsha Patel, Bhavik's wife, was was my first guest, talking about self-care September and movement, particularly for new mothers. So she talks about that. If because I always think I want to start running and I can barely jog as well. So I think again, though, you've said it took 8 to 10 years to get to a point running a marathon. So this stuff doesn't happen overnight, but it helps us, and every single step we take, every single jog that we do moves us towards that goal. And it's not a quick fix and it's not an overnight thing.
And I think also, Layla, what's really important is the word patience. It's patience with ourselves, it's patience with the process, and it's patience to understand that there is, to get to, like you said, an 8 to 10 year journey. If someone said to you, moving forward, it's going to take 8 to 10 years, you may say, I might never start.
Yeah.
But if we just move that step and one step at a time and don't look at the bigger picture, 8 to 10 years will come by.
Yeah.
And I find that 1 year is like a few months these days. It happens so quickly. So unless you keep it up and you keep the little steps going, the bigger picture will happen. Just, stick at it.
Yeah, and I've been talking about this recently, that we don't generally go from learning ABCs or whichever script we're learning to being able to write a doctoral thesis. It takes 20, 25 years.
Yes.
And yet people do it, and people study for a long time because they enjoy it, because it's something they believe in. So we need to apply those principles to all areas of our life, and to think that nothing's wasted if you're doing it with the right intention, and it's moving you forward in some way. It might not be perfect, but it's about that. Everything contributes to the bigger picture.
And when you say perfection, what is perfection? It's an ambiguous statement, isn't it? Because there is nothing. It's in your mind, you believe something, and then someone else may look at it and put their viewpoint on it, and it isn't that. And so therefore, I think something is better than nothing. And also, when the whole thing about wanting everything now, instant gratification. I know that's the way technology has moved us to, this sort of swipe left, swipe right. I want it now. Google, I do a search and I want it now. It's like my daughter, so when she was younger, she wanted to do a Viking outfit. So she had, a project to do about Vikings. And she said, I can't find anything. I said, Kaya, that is just, how can you not find anything in this day and age? Now tell me, I said, when we had to do a project with school, we had to get on a bus to go to the library. We went to the library and we had to find this section where the Viking section was. We found the book and we had to open it to find the outfit. We then had to photocopy or rent that book out, come back home, and then, start the work on our project. All that just to find one outfit. Now you're saying you type in Viking outfit in Google and you can't find anything, and that's, that friction, I think, helped us, as we were growing up, things were hard, weren't they? There's nothing that came easily, and therefore, unless you really wanted it, it didn't happen. And now it just seems to be the friction's gone, which is great, but then there's no, there's no patience to make things happen.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I loved going to the library. So I was thinking this morning, actually, I think I'm a real analog person at heart.
I love things like that, though. Libraries, just being in. I remember when I was a few years ago, I wanted to do some studying. So I joined the Leicester University Library because I used to go there. So I was like, okay, I want to go there. And just being in that environment where people are working, doing their own whatever they're doing, and you're working on what you're working on. I love being in that environment. There's such an energy in there that just keeps you, I think, focused on what you're trying to do, but just, I think, viscerally feels good being in that space.
Does for me anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't mean you were cut from the same cloth there.
So Bhavik, thank you so much for your time and all your wisdom and your gems.
No
If people
worries.
want to know more about your work and the podcast, how should they get in contact with you? And I'll include these links in the show notes.
Yeah, so it's LinkedIn and Instagram. So LinkedIn more for links to my podcast and just a few thoughts I have, and Instagram as well for pictures and stuff. Not so much Facebook. I'm more on those two. So yeah, anyone ever wants to reach out with anything, please do so, and I will always respond, and I'll try and help you, even if it's not to do with anything we've talked about today. If it's something else, please, no problem at all.
And thank you so much for your generosity. It's been a joy as always. And everyone do check out Bigger Than the Hustle podcast. And we'll see you in the next episode for more personal development and growth tips during April. Until the next time, take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Diverse Minds podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcasts from. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Tune into next week's episode of the podcast, where I'll bring you more insights on mental health and inclusion. Bye for now.